Welcome once again to This Week in East Brunswick, the Township's own news and information program. Today we look at drug-free school zones, the most obvious result of Governor Kane's Comprehensive Drug Act of 1987. East Brunswick Police Captain Ron Shorp will talk about its law enforcement aspects, and Dr. Joanne Magistro will outline its importance to the school system. Later, East Brunswick Arts Coordinator Dolly Vasta will preview High Button Shoes, an East Brunswick High School Drama Club production with Elliot Taubenslag. Our regular features will include a comment on the Constitution from Allison Weeder, consumer information on vacation scams from Adrian Eisner, and our Township Council review. First, here's our Channel 8 schedule for next week. Monday morning at 10, exercise and learn about a new anti-wrinkle cream with Lenore Kulik on Look Great, Feel Great. Then at 10:30, it's stories from East Brunswick librarians. Tuesday, our lineup begins with book information from In Print with host Michael Cart. At 7:30, Ken Shalhoub talks general surgery and trauma care on Let's Talk Health, followed by You and Your Money with Paul Hansen, coming to you with the latest financial information at 8 p.m. Next, it's Business Bylines with host John Runyon and his guests discussing the East Brunswick Redevelopment Agency. That's at 8:30. Wednesday at 7:30, Spotlight on Education highlights special education in our elementary schools. Followed at 8 by 18, Growing Up in East Brunswick with Stuart Davis and a look at jobs for teens. And we'll be back next Thursday at 7 and 8 with another edition of This Week in East Brunswick. And be sure to check our Channel 8 program guide for repeats of all these shows. You may have noticed a few new signs near the high school on Cranberry Road and Dunham's Corner Road denoting a drug-free school zone and wondered what they were all about. Today we'll look at these new zones and at the wider topic of drug policy in our schools with Detective Captain Ron Shorp of the East Brunswick Police Department and Joanne Magistro, East Brunswick Assistant Superintendent for Student Activities and Services in the school system. First, some background from Captain Shorp.
Last year, in response to Governor Kane's call for a drug-free New Jersey, the state legislature introduced and unanimously adopted the Comprehensive Drug Reform Act of 1987, which went into effect July of last year. Now, in addition to mandatory stiff prison sentences and mandatory cash fines, many new offenses were created as a result of this legislation. One of these new offenses is the establishment of a drug-free zone around all schools within the state of New Jersey. This new offense thus creates a drug-free zone extending 1,000 feet in all directions from the outermost boundaries of our schools. Now, these outer perimeters of our 18 public, private, and parochial schools will be identified by warning signs, such as the one posted here on the westbound side of Cranberry Road just before the East Brunswick High School. Maps indicating the outermost boundaries have been prepared by the Township Engineering Department, and they are available for examination at police headquarters. It's also interesting to note that at present we have not yet posted all zones within the township. However, the absence of a sign does not mean that this particular offense is not possible to commit. In other words, the sign doesn't have to be posted. As previously stated, the 1,000-foot perimeter is from the outermost property line. To give you some idea of the size of this drug-free school zone, we are now standing on the westbound side of Cranberry Road, just north of the intersection of Dunham's Corner Road. The drug-free zone extends from this point to Joseph Street, the intersection of Joseph Street and Cranberry Road, on the other side of Highway 18, which means that all of the area from this sign to the Cranberry-Joseph Street sign is within that 1,000-foot school zone, and arrests are subject to this particular offense within that zone.
Channel 8 reporter Stuart Davis asked Dr. Joanne Magistro, school system liaison to the police department, about the goals of the drug-free zone.
Drug-free zones are areas within 1,000 feet of any school. We have 11 schools in the district, and as you can see, when you look within 1,000 feet of any school, it takes up pretty much a great portion of the East Brunswick community, which is good. And basically what we're saying is to someone who comes upon school area that if you distribute drugs in that area, you're going to face far more serious penalties than you would otherwise. And hopefully it's going to deter people from coming on school grounds and selling drugs. So we feel very good about the fact that so much of our community is protected by the drug-free zones, and hope that it will tell people and give a message out there that we mean business, and that certainly if you're going to come on school grounds and be involved in that kind of activity, that we're not going to allow it, or we're certainly going to be stiffer in terms of the penalties that are involved in doing something like that.
Could you tell me a little bit about what the relationship is between the schools and the police in this drug-free zone program?
The East Brunswick Police Department and the East Brunswick Public Schools have joined in an effort and have developed a cooperative plan in addressing the new drug law. And part of that plan is training, in that the police have been in our schools and they have trained our school nurses and our administration in terms of aspects of drug abuse and symptoms and that kind of thing. We have an exchange of information with the police, so there's constant support back and forth in terms of the goals that we're trying to address. There also is more visibility of police enforcement in the schools and around school grounds, hopefully a deterrent. But on the other hand, trying to give an image that the police officer is here to help and is concerned about students and is trying to get a view of being a positive member of our total community and with our students.
Right, now this being passed down from the state, is this an indication that we're seeing more drugs, or just we're getting wiser to them?
Well, I think that for quite a while there's been a concern about drugs in the schools. However, we have to realize that drugs in the school is a manifestation of drugs in the community. And what place do you have more of a captivated audience that with students, both in selling and in educating? So negatively, we certainly don't want to have people coming into our school and finding it a place to distribute drugs. But on a positive note, this is certainly an area where we want to have a prevention program, where we want to have places where kids can get help who are involved.
These zones will be heavily patrolled by plainclothes officers and uniformed officers. And anyone caught possessing drugs with intent to distribute or distributing will face a minimum additional 3-year prison sentence in addition to heavy cash fine. Now, I must emphasize that this is in addition to the sentence that would be imposed for the actual distribution of drugs. Now, a number of provisions contained in this act are specially designed to influence students' perceptions as to the legal consequences of drug use. The legislation provides that juveniles adjudicated delinquent, even for minor possession charges, are to be required to pay a penalty of $500. The new law further states that students caught using or possessing drugs within this 1,000-foot school property zone must be required to perform not less than 100 hours of community service. Most importantly, to our young people, we find that the provision concerning a driver's license revocation would be most effective. In the event that a student is under 17 years of age when caught in possession of drugs, that student would not be able to obtain a New Jersey driver's license for 6 months after his 17th birthday.
Spotting a substance abuse problem can be difficult. Dr. Magistro explains the practical aspects of the school's drug policy.
Well, there are many different kinds of symptoms that a student may experience, or a teacher may be able to see in students, that are not as obvious as one would expect. For instance, declining grades, depression, perhaps a change of personality. These are things that a classroom teacher may be able to see and identify and bring to the attention of what we call in our district a Student Services Council, which are members of the administrative staff, guidance counselors, nurses, teachers. And if you have observed behavior that you think is unusual behavior for a particular student, and it's brought before the council and it's discussed. There's also ways in which we meet with the student, the parent, and so forth, and try to address what the problem is with the student. It may not be drugs, it may be a home personal problem. And through that vehicle, we try to address and help students to channel in the right direction. And if it is a drug problem, part of our policy states that we send the students out for a drug medical exam, and that would be recommended either by an individual staff member of the Student Services Council or court team, as we call it, or the administration.
So what happens if a teacher suspects a student? Has that?
If a teacher suspects a student, the law is very clear about that. There is not a confidentiality in a school. The principal of the school must be notified, and then the core group or the Student Services Council, which is a group of people, get together and address the issue. If it's, of course, we're talking about something that's not an emergency. Obviously, in emergency kinds of things, we work on a quite different, quicker aspect. But in terms of identifying or suspecting abuse, we try to get as many people involved as we can to identify the problem, be sure that parents are involved and what have you.
There are many more aspects to the new drug law. If you have questions, please call Detective Captain Ron Shorp at 390-6930. Now let's join Dolly Vasta at East Brunswick High School for a preview of High Button Shoes.
Hi, I'm Dolly Vasta with your arts update for this week, and the gentleman seated next to me on my right looks very familiar. You're right about that too, because he's an institution here in East Brunswick. His name is Elliot Tavenslog, and he's been running the theater program and the English program at the high school for nigh on to 25 years, right, El?
Well, I've been teaching for 36 years altogether.
36?
36, right.
It only seems like 24. But
Some days it seems like 76.
Right, but I keep forgetting we're the same age. You've
That's
just
right.
lost more hair than I. Oh, that's so unkind.
Right.
Oh, but the reason I have you here today is
Sure.
your show, High Button Shoes, it goes on this weekend.
That's right. Thursday night is really sort of a dress rehearsal and senior citizen night, and we have people from some organizations coming as our guest, and some of the adult who are part of Brain Injured and so on program. So that we're really excited about that, because it's really a pleasure to play to this audience, and it's a service. The show itself, of course, you have to remember it's a high school production. It's not a professional production. And this year I have a tremendous number of sophomores in it. For them, it's the first time. Oh my God! I'm on a stage.
I thought it was me. You know, I looked at them this afternoon, and I thought, either I'm getting terribly old or they're getting terribly young, because they are very young faces up there, yeah?
Well, it's a little bit of both. You are getting older, and
Thank you, Elliot. And this interview is making me even older.
but the show was just so much fun. It was a show that I guess originally opened in 1947 with Phil Silvers and Annette Verbrey. It was one of the first shows of Jules Stein's music, and it just captured Broadway.
Well, it's fun. It's a piece
Yeah,
of fluff.
it's a
You don't
piece
have
of
to
fluff,
think
right.
about it.
There's no message to it or anything. It's just fun, fun, fun. And unfortunately, the high school people really have not heard of the show. I keep forgetting that most of them never even heard of Phil Silvers, unless they've watched reruns of the Bilko show or something. So that one of the big things about this is it's a tremendous costume show. There are
Yes, I
3, 4, 5 costume changes for each one of them. We must be using way over 100 costumes. The scenery for this particular show is overwhelming also. This show in 1947 probably cost maybe $40,000 to $50,000 to do on Broadway. If you did it today, it would be $7 or $8 million, because it's just one scene after another scene. We're trying not to duplicate it, but trying to present it the best way we can. So I've got a crew of high school people working on scenery and working on scenery and working on scenery, and they keep feeling, God, we'll never get done. But again, as I said, the show opened in 1947, and the music has stayed among some of the popular
Especially
songs.
for those of us who went to Rutgers
Yeah.
or were associated with Rutgers, they'll recognize a lot of the
Oh,
Rutgers
yeah.
numbers in it.
Well, the show is about one of the first games played between Rutgers and Princeton, and it talks about the Longstreet family. And it's ironic because I knew a family by the name of Ford who lived at the house that this story takes place in. And it's on Welton Street near Roosevelt Junior High School. And the house is still there. A lot of the things they talk about I'm quite familiar with. It's so it's nostalgic in that way
Why
for
did you
me.
pick this show in particular to do?
Well, I'm going to be very honest with you. I was wondering if you were going to ask me that question, and then I thought, oh, well, should I be honest about it or not? I wanted to do West Side Story, and the students wanted to do West Side Story. The music department here felt that West Side Story was not what they could handle at this time because of the involvement of so many of the musicians and other things, and they felt the West Side Story would be too much of a involvement for them. I said, well, okay, if we don't do West Side Story, what other shows would we get the commitment of the orchestra? And there were 3 or 4 or 5 shows that we agreed upon would be good. Then we met with our students, and we together picked this one.
Well, you know,
Only because it's just, the show itself is so much fun.
well, I'm having a ball with this show because you and I did this show years ago
Right.
with the players, but that I've been working and helping you stage and doing
Oh,
some
yeah.
choreography on this, and I worked with you on the first show that was ever done here at the high
That's
school
right, yes.
with your drama department. And I keep hearing all kinds of rumors, Elliot, that you may be, and I say may because
Right.
you have not made any kind of statements, but that you may be retiring in June. Is this
Well,
true?
yeah, I'm seriously thinking
Could
about
I have a firstie?
Well, I'm thinking about it, but I may or may not. But right now, I'm seriously thinking of it. I've had a lot of offers to do a lot of other things, and there are a lot of professional things that I'd like to go back to. As you know, I do write, and some of my things are published, sometimes under my name, under different names. I'm working on some things that are very, very important to me, and I go home at the end of the week, and I'm so frustrated because I haven't had a chance to do what I really like doing, and that's writing, and so that I want to finish some of the things I'm
Well,
working
you
on.
were honored by the governor this year. You got the governor's medal. What
That's
was it
right.
for?
Well, that was it was an award for the outstanding teacher in speech and theater for the past year. And I was really honored.
Did you know you were getting that award?
Oh, yeah,
you
I was
did?
notified a few weeks earlier, and they asked who I'd like to invite to the award. And of course, the governor himself presented it.
Were you
So-
excited?
Oh, very much so.
I saw the
yeah.
picture on the
Oh,
wall.
yeah, it was one of the very exciting things in my life, to be so honored.
What stands out in your memory the most about working with the high school kids?
Well, the exuberance that they have and the excitement, and I know and you know that no matter how good or how bad it is, Grandma's going to be out there and say, "Oh God, it was just like a Broadway show."
Of course.
Right, but it's just a lot of fun, and it is a high school production.
Okay, let's go back. So it's High Button Shoes. and
High
it's
Button Shoes.
This Friday,
This Friday.
this Saturday.
This Saturday.
8 o'clock.
8 o'clock.
And what's the price?
$4. Senior citizens are guests, and we'd love to have people there.
Wonderful.
Right.
That's just great.
Okay.
Well, I know you have to get back to the rehearsal,
Right.
so I'm going to let you go, but
Okay.
stay there for just a second while
Sure.
I tie this all up.
Okay.
So all of you out there, don't forget, be there this Friday and Saturday night. And I'll let you in on one more little piece of news, and that's the following week will be Chenin Dancers, and it will be up here at the East Brunswick High School. That too will be on Saturday night, March 19th, 8 o'clock. You can call my office for the next 2 weeks for tickets, 390-6825, and I'd be glad to hold them for you. Tickets will be available at the door, of course. I hope I see you up here this weekend and the next weekend. And in the meantime, take care.
Hello, my name is Allison Weeder. I am a 9th grader at Churchill Junior High School, and I will be presenting this week's Comment on the Constitution. My topic is President of the Convention. As the most respected and honored man of his time, George Washington seemed to be an ideal candidate for President of the Convention. He was one of the leading citizens who were convinced that a stronger national government was needed. When he first was invited to the convention, he refused to accept because he was not interested in getting involved in politics. Later, he agreed because he feared that if he did not attend, people might think he lost faith in the government. He was not very active in the debates, but his presence and support were essential to the ratification by the states. When it came time to elect a president for the country, there was no one else Americans could unite behind other than George Washington. During the Revolutionary War, he had left his farm in West Virginia to lead the American army to victory over the British. When the war was over and there was no longer a need for an army, he returned to life on his plantation, an honorable man who time and time again devoted himself to the common welfare of the nation. Thank you.
Hello, and welcome to Consumer Aware. I'm Adrienne Eisner, Director of the East Brunswick Consumer Affairs Office. You're ready for a vacation. You've saved a long time for your dream trip, and you bought the bargain package from a helpful person who called you one evening and offered you a great deal. The trip is a disaster. Your flight is late, your baggage lost, and the person on the phone didn't tell you about all the extra expenses. The trip you thought was a bargain cost you more than you had expected and more than you can afford. Don't let this happen to you. Know your rights and the facts before you travel or buy a vacation over the telephone. You should never buy an unsolicited offer of a vacation over the phone. All too often, those offers are frauds offered by someone who will take your money and leave town. Others will give you a trip, but you will end up paying far more than you had ever expected. How do you protect yourself against a travel scam? Be wary of deals that are too good to be true. Businesses are out to make money, and none give away items of significant value. Ask detailed questions. Find out exactly what is and what is not covered in your payment. Ask if there are any additional charges later, what the policies are for cancellation, and the names of specific airlines, hotels, airports, and restaurants that are included in the package. If the salesperson cannot give you detailed answers to these questions, it's not the deal for you. Get detailed information in writing before you make the purchase, and once you receive that information, review it carefully to make sure it confirms everything that you were told over the phone. Do not be pressured into buying. Generally, a bona fide offer will remain in effect tomorrow. Legitimate businesses do not expect you to make an instant decision. Never give your credit card number over the phone to any person who you did not call. Scam operators can easily use your number to charge your account without your knowing it. Be leery of anyone who asks you to put out money before you receive the information. If you have doubts, it is usually better to turn the offer down and hang up the phone. If you have any further questions about vacation scams, please call us at the East Brunswick Consumer Affairs Office. We are in the municipal building. Our hours are from 9 until 5, from Monday till Friday. The telephone number is 390-6954. Call us if you have any questions. Thank you for joining me on Consumer Aware. See you again next week.
At Monday night's council agenda meeting, a plan for a new municipal computer system was outlined. Paul Albright spoke for the committee in charge of investigating the new system. He called the township's current computer network obsolete, expensive, and inefficient. He estimates the new system will cost about $1 million. Also Monday, Richard Walling gave a video presentation to the council to win support in his effort to preserve historical buildings in the township. He gave an overview of the homes the township has lost to development and of those currently at risk. Under action items, Rabbi Chaim Rogoff of the Board of Ethics introduced an amendment to the Ethics Code. The new law would require township officials to bring public any appearance of conflict of interest, to take a disclosure oath, and the new law would limit the amount of financial disclosures officials are required to make. Councilman Becker opposed the last part of the amendment, saying officials should have to make public more of their financial involvement rather than less. and Director of Public Safety Tom Terrell introduced a plan to lessen the traffic on Salem and Canterbury roads caused by the closing of Ruse Lane. That's all for now, and thanks for watching.